Eileen Kraus of West Hartford is one of Connecticut's most powerful and influential corporate leaders. Recently retired as chairman of Fleet Bank, Connecticut, she was the first female president of a major financial institution in the state.
Money makes a verse, four rounds a verse, four rounds a verse. Money makes a verse, four rounds a clinking, clanking sound. Money, 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 money. Get a little money, 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 money. Mark right in a box for a pound. That clinking, clanking, clunking sound is all that makes a verse go round. It makes a verse go round.
I had never really thought about banking for myself.
Channel 3 Eyewitness News at 5.
Connecticut National Bank has a new president tonight, and for the first time, a woman is sitting at the top post.
The Shawmut National Corporation today naming Eileen Kraus as president of Connecticut National Bank, one of the company's two flagship banks. Connecticut National, the state's largest bank, becomes one of only a handful of major banks that have a woman in the president's chair. Kraus, who joined the bank in 1979, says she's convinced there will be many more women in finance who will rise to the top spot in the coming decade.
I think it's really been in the last decade when opportunities have been opened for women, and I think as those opportunities continue and as women move up the ranks and have more seniority or tenure or whatever you'd like to call it, that we'll see many, many more, because talent is gender-free.
Live from WTNH Channel 8, this is Action News at 5.
A West Hartford woman has become the very first woman to run a major New England bank. Eileen Kraus has been named president of Connecticut National Bank by parent company Shawmut National Corporation of Boston. Kraus also becomes the first female president of any large company in the greater Hartford area.
And I think we're beginning to see that talent and success isn't a male thing or a female thing. It's really gender neutral.
The year that she was in the Hartford Courant, I think it was the front page of the business section, was the year that I really remember suddenly having the world and my friends think about my mother differently than other moms, because she was just my mom. She was still the same person, and so it was this dichotomy of like, oh my gosh, my mom is on the front page of the newspaper with a whole thing just about her, and yet she's the same person as I've grown up with all my life.
She's my mom, so, and that's the funny thing, is that growing up with a woman who is as first woman executive in Connecticut or in the banking industry in Connecticut, people would think, you know, wow, she's a really powerful CEO, and gosh, you must really respect her for being a CEO. But first and foremost, I mean, she's my mom. You know, I can remember back when I was 13 or 12, I think, I was in middle school, and she was awarded the Connecticut Business Person of the Year award. And I remember walking in, and we were actually eating cookies one day in one of our social studies classes, and on the desk, because it was social studies, was the Hartford Courant, and there was my mom. And all my friends made this like big deal about, hey, that's your mom. And that was when it really first struck me at age 13 that my mom was kind of who she was.
I knew she had the potential to be a leader. Whatever she took as a challenge, her goal was to be number one. And same thing for her children, to direct them and teach them to be number one, but also concerned about fellow man at the same time. It didn't surprise me the day that Joel Albert decided that she should be the president of Shawmut Bank.
I was absolutely destined to play for the New York Yankees as far as I was concerned. I didn't know whether I'd pitch or whether I'd play first base. I knew I wouldn't catch because I couldn't squat that well.
What would you like for your birthday, dear? A Yankee uniform. She had the highest batting average of anybody in 5th grade, boys included. She has always loved the game and has always been a Yankee fan. Even today, she sits in front of the TV to tell the Yankees how to play.
My mother sat me down one day and said, darling, you're probably not geared up to play for the Yankees. Have you noticed there are no women on the team? As I came into my senior year at Mount Holyoke, Yale Law School had come to the campus to recruit a few women. I mean, a very few. And at the time, I had talked to them about the potential of going to law school. And I never followed through with that because in those days, if you were going to be married, you didn't just run off to law school. And at that point, I was pretty sure this relationship was going to go somewhere. Both Hal and my mother said, well, gee, darling, there probably ought to be something you should be able to do in case something happens to Hal. So I went to Catherine Gibbs and learned how to become a secretary, if you can believe it, because there really weren't any jobs in the business world. They didn't exist. We were married, moved to West Hartford, and Hal traveled all the time. And so I was sitting in this apartment, not knowing anybody, and the phone rang. And it was Ella Grasso on the other end of the phone. She was Secretary of the State at the time. And she introduced herself. And she said that she had called the Mount Holyoke College placement office to see if there were some young new political science economics graduate who recently moved to town who might come down and work for her. She said, can you come down this week for an interview? And I said, sure. Which day do you want me? And she said, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday. So then I had to say to her, where are you? She said, well, I'm at the Capitol. And I said, well, where is that? Because I'm brand new. I did have the maps that Hal had given me, but so we set an appointment, and I went down, and she offered me the job, and I took it on the spot. My volunteer work started almost at the same time I came to Hartford, because I had joined the Junior League. That was a wonderful door opener for community service and volunteer work. I began singing in the singing group, and we went out and entertained mostly senior citizens, but we had a very busy schedule singing. In addition to the Junior League, I became involved in any number of different volunteer organizations.
There was my wife Patty and Eileen Kraus with hammers in their hands for the Habitat for Humanities, doing some building, another event and another civic duty that Eileen was fulfilling.
I started Career Search Resources, which was the first of two businesses. And it was Career Search Resources through which I began to work with women who were then trying to either re-enter or enter for the first time the work market. And it just so happened that companies were beginning to open doors for women due to affirmative action and all sorts of other kinds of things. So it was at that point that I really began helping people understand that the work that they might have been doing in a volunteer sense had real application in a for-profit corporation. I think I knew something about business and skills and what went on inside those big tall buildings. And I also knew that the things that women, particularly women who had substantial positions in, volunteer leadership, could do were a match. It was the translation of what they had done in the volunteer arena into language and into description of skills that would match jobs in the workplace. My two businesses were both running beautifully. So I was kind of at a crossroads, and Tuesday after Labor Day of 1978, the phone rang, and it was Joel Alvord, who had been made president of Hartford National Bank the year before. And he was calling to see if I would come have lunch with him to talk about the potential of coming to work for Hartford National. And I said, no, I can't come have lunch with you because I'm just too busy. But as luck would have it, that weekend, we ended up at the same dinner party. And lo and behold, he is my dinner partner, right here. And he saw an opportunity, and he took it. Did I have to learn everything from scratch? Absolutely. I mean, it was a major challenge, and every time I got promoted into a job that I had to completely learn a whole new set of things. And yes, I mean, I think there were some doubts because I was a woman in a male-dominated field that I couldn't cut it. But I was concerned that I wouldn't set a good example. I mean, when you're the first of anything, there's a huge sort of burden of proof that's on your shoulders, because people are looking at you as the first whatever. And so it's very important that you not fail.
Being Eileen Kraus's daughter is awesome.
She's a lady with goals, each and every day.
My mom, who's my role model, my number one role model in my life.
She's been a wonderful daughter.
If you're a first in something, if you're at the top of something, you do have a phenomenal opportunity to give back. You're able to help open doors, you're able to help other people gain success. And to me, that's been a tremendously satisfying part of whatever success I've had. I've been able to share it.
World.